Good afternoon. It's great to see you all here. My name is Phil Llewellyn. I'm the current board chair for the FCSI Asia Pacific region, so welcome you all today. Firstly, I'd like to thank the FHA team for inviting us to join this exhibition and have the opportunity to present with our panel discussions this afternoon. So we've got a great team of panelists with you now. It's going to run for about an hour. And then we've got three quick fire sessions for about 15 minutes after that. And then at the end of the event, we've got our networking event, so look forward to seeing you all there. These events would not be possible without our allied sponsorship members, so I'd really like to thank all of them. So all of the sponsors that supported us for today's session and the ability to be here. As I said, we cover the region from Asia Pacific, which runs from India all the way to New Zealand, and I'm really proud to say that we've got people from a lot of those countries here today. We've got board members and other members of FCSI. I'd also like to thank our excellent range of panelists. I'm sure most of you know most of them, but we've got Debbie here who's going to be moderating from Atypical Media, Albin Chavy from Compass Group, Stuart Robertson from New Zealand, Tony Chisholm from Accor, also from New Zealand as well, and I'm a proud Kiwi. Tulsi Grover from re.vorG. re.vorG. Thank you. And Yvette Lynn, head chef from Burnt End. So thank you guys. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Debbie now, and let's get this first session underway. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a good lunch hour. Good to see some familiar faces, especially those who are FCSI members, friends of FCSI, FHA attendees. Good to see some of you after the Vietnam conference that we met at last year. And yeah, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. You know, I was just thinking, we really are surrounded by the language of AI. It's everywhere these days. It's in press headlines. It's in every business deck. It's all around this hall, and it's in every business conversation. And the data does really support it. According to a 2024 survey by Deloitte of 400 restaurant executives worldwide, apparently Asian restaurants are leading the AI charge. We are adopting it faster than the rest of the world, and we are supposed to be the most well-prepared for it. So that's the point of today's session. But beyond just peddling the AI Kool-Aid, we really want to look deeper at a harder question, which is how do we meaningfully adopt AI, especially in restaurant design and operations, and create restaurants that are not just operationally efficient and intelligent, but also experientially rich. And we are joined today by an amazing panel, a really big one. So we have packed plenty of insights for you guys today. And we span a really interesting narrative arc from asset management and investment to restaurant design to operations, from global hotel brands to Michelin-starred restaurants to office cafeteria and corporate dining. So it's going to be a really, really interesting panel. I know we just heard from, we were just introduced, but let me do a deeper round of introduction. So we'll start with Albin. So Albin is Regional Director for Business Excellence at Compass Group. And he sits at the intersection of operational design, team experience, and smart infrastructure. We also have Stuart, who helps restaurant owners and dining precinct operators build venues across hospitality, property, and tourism industries. Right? Tony, who is Global SVP for Food, Beverage, and Entertainment at Accor. But beyond his 25 years shaping F&B across luxury and lifestyle brands, Tony also spent 7 years working in private equity. So we're hoping to bring a bit of his asset management and brand management lens to this conversation. And of course, we have Tulsi, who runs re.vorG. And interestingly, his consultancy treats hospitality spaces as systems, not just spaces, and with low carbon design and adaptive reuse as his guiding principles. And of course, last but not least, we have Yvette, who is head chef at Burnt Ends, the private dining and bar extension of one of Singapore's most celebrated Michelin-star restaurants. If you haven't been there already on your trip to Singapore this time, you definitely must go. And now you know the person to call to shortcut the waiting list. All right, so actually, let's do a quick poll of the audience. How many of you have adopted AI in your workflow and in your design processes? Quick show of hands. Okay, pretty good, pretty impressive. For those of you who haven't raised your hands, that's exactly why we're here for this panel, so that you can identify which areas to invest in, where to start looking at it. So with that, let's get into it. So let's get into it. Our first theme that I wanted to look at is AI in the design process, of course, because we have a lot of designers and consultants in the audience. And I want to start with a little cheeky provocation, which is AI just a lot of noise? Maybe Tulsi, I'll put you in the hot seat to kick us off. Is AI helping designers generate more options? But is it really improving the quality of design and decisions, or is it accelerating bad decisions?
I think, thank you. The first one. Perhaps before I answer, let me establish what AI means to me from a design perspective. I believe AI is not your collaborator. It's not your creative partner. It has no intent. It has no accountability. People sitting here have accountability. Us, yourselves, and the others behind. So what AI does is it amplifies and it stress tests. So if you've got good ideas, it amplifies good ideas. If you've got bad ideas, it amplifies bad ideas. And the responsibility in the end, it rests on us. From a stress test perspective, it gives you iterations. You can bring speed from that. You can do a lot more optioneering. You can build more design ideas or three-dimensional concepts pretty quickly. But it's our responsibility to find the right option, the right layout, to then suggest to the owners, the operators, to what to sort of go for. So responsibility still lies on us. So in short, if you ask me, is it noise? I think from a speed perspective, it's not, because it does help us generate faster, quicker. You can get a lot more research done, a lot more data can come out of that, a lot more iterations can come out of that. But the question is, how much time? It saves us time, but what do you do with the time? That's becoming more and more critical. If you use that time to then go out and get more jobs, and then you end up sort of doing more of that, then of course your projects will suffer. But if you use that time to develop and iterate and really stress test your ideas, that's where the value in a way comes in.
But to add on to that, how do you then avoid analysis paralysis when you have so many options to choose from? How do you, in your experience, filter out this noise then?
I think that's the reason why it's getting difficult, because choosing from 3 options is easier than choosing from 10. And AI now can generate 50 options within seconds. So how do you do that? I think that's basically where the experience has to come in, the questioning has to come in. I grew up in India, and there's a concept that, to even cheat, you have to use your brain. So you have to bring that in the conversation or in the judgment of it, and to understand what would work, what would not work, and stress test it from that perspective.
Okay, got it. I'm going to keep you in the hot seat for a while.
Sure.
I think what's interesting about your profile is also your focus on low carbon and adaptive reuse. Do you see AI helping in this regard?
It does. It does help in specifications. It helps in understanding what's available. It helps in understanding if I'm using or specifying a particular material, how long will it last? All that data is online. And earlier on, I had to literally go on Google searches, find theses by scientists, trying to figure it out. But now all that stuff is available. But again, the question is, whichever AI engine is spitting that out, the question is, am I taking on the face value? Or again, am I testing it against multiple AI engines to ensure that that's the right approach, and then making sense out of that?
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to give you a breather and bring Stuart into the conversation. So Stuart, you come from this at operations as well as an operator as well as a commercial lens. What friction are you seeing to AI adoption at the moment? What's stopping people from adopting AI? And what's working? What's overrated? And what do operators really need right now?
I think there's a few things really. the main thing would be the fact that AI is coming at us so fast, and it's impossible to stay ahead of it. It's impossible to anticipate where it's going to go. So we have to accept a bit of AI overwhelm. And for my clients, I try and get them to design a whole operational and AI infrastructure that sits underneath the business, rather than just a collection of AI tools. And to do that, you need to break it into bite-sized chunks. And because I love a spreadsheet, and because I'm ultimately focusing on the bottom line, I kind of take the cue from the P&L. It's like, well, what are we going to? How can we use AI to build revenue through better target marketing or customer engagement, micro-marketing strategies, even the reservation system? How do we use it to reduce food costs in terms of stock management, menu engineering, and things like that? And work your way through that P&L again with wage costs. So many opportunities exist to use AI for smart rostering and utilising staff in the most cost-effective way.
But with this proliferation of data, how do you see it? You know, it's a bit like how Dr. Google changed the patient experience, right? People come in asking more detailed questions with more specific, well, everyone thinks they have cancer when they go and see a doctor now. So how have you seen the spec sheet change? And also, how has this changed the relationship between what clients are asking of designers and consultants?
For me, oh, right. So, well, good question. I think we can harness so much more information to provide better market understanding.
Tulsi, would you like to weigh in on that? Have you seen the spec sheet changing with this proliferation of data people now have access
I think it's getting more stronger in the sense that because it's easy to understand whether a material or a specification would last or not, because performance metrics are becoming more and more critical. Because earlier you had to literally go through 50 pages of a specification of material. Now literally you can upload that in AI and then it'll give you pros and cons of it and the usage of it within seconds. So of course it's changing. So I feel that from a design perspective, it's becoming critical for us to use that to ensure that the projects we design last longer and the materials last longer. They're much more healthier. They're much more, maintainable. From a manufacturer's perspective, they need to they need to add a lot more information about their products and materials, so at least then we can make those decisions to have them on the projects, in the projects.
Okay. Any wish list for manufacturers besides more information?
I think just have more data about what you're doing, what the products will do, what specifications they have. That will make it easier. I mean, in the push for speed, a lot of times designers don't end up looking at everything. So this way, in a way, through AI, will help us to make better decisions.
Okay, sounds good.
And where it's currently working, so that we can see proof of concept and use that as reference or a base case to talk to owners or operators or general managers. That really helps.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. One more question on design, and then we're going to talk a little bit about operations, which is, typically when a restaurant is fitted out, front of house and back of house is treated as two separate projects. Often there are different consultants and designers working on that. I think, Stuart, you talked about systems thinking. Is there a need to then integrate both as one system and have both sets of designers, or do we need to design it as one project, one system with underlying data architecture speaking to each other? Or, I'll invite both of you to weigh in.
I think that the question has primarily been asked, I would say the last sort of 10 years in design has been that how good a space should look. And we've been getting that question left, right, and center. But I think the question which has to change now is how does a space performs on a busy night? And once you start asking those questions, design becomes important but still secondary. And that's how I feel that where, in a way, the back of house integration with the front of house integration has to be critical. A lot of times we go in design for the guest experience, and the service experience is not taken care of, and then the clash happens, right? So both, I would say, the guest experience mapping and the staff experience mapping in a front of house space has to work like a choreography. And when you can do that, when you can achieve that, that's where, for lack of saying this cliche, the magic happens. And that's why projects end up becoming successful or not.
Okay. Okay, sounds good, thank you. I want to zoom in a bit on this front of house and back of house tension and bring Yvette in, with your operational experience. So Burnt Ends is built on craft, right? On fire, wood fire cooking, almost kind of like a primal instinct. How are you adopting AI in your kitchen? Is it a natural fit, or is it jarring with the style of cooking that you do at Burnt Ends?
So, as a chef, any tool that you get or any extra help, it's how you use it. And with wood fire or with high-level cooking, a lot of attention should be paid to the craft. And when business expands or when concepts develop, a lot of times time spent gets shifted from the craft to the day-to-day or to staffing issues or operation issues. And with AI as a tool, you shift the chef's time back to the craft. And that's where actually the USPs of all companies come into, because HR, timing, hours, work efficiency, those need time, and you get that stereotypical executive head chef in the office just trying to map out your man hours, your OTs, and your costings. But that can then be consolidated into an hour, work into my mise en place, and I then focus on the staff, the training, and the people. So that's how AI is more like a tool and work together with the industry than a contradiction.
Okay, do you have some examples of AI that you have adopted recently that has been a lifesaver?
All right, so
for you?
recently there's People Brewery, and so a lot of times the designers would come to us and say, how do you want to put the tables? How many seats you want to do? And the first thing we go to last time would be take a paper and draw like, I need 50 seats, and I draw boxes. But right now I put into AI, I put a floor plan, and they'll be like, okay, this is the maximum efficiency scale. Then you go to the designer like, this looks ugly. Can you make it work? And it saves time both sides. Then more can go into things that always is the afterthought, which is lighting, music, ambient material use, which a lot of times AI won't have the data of. And this is where experience come in and people come in. But the place to put the chair will be done by AI. I think as of any creative industry that turns to commodity or service, customers knowing or people knowing what they want really helps designers and purveyors, because then it lessens the noise. Because AI is information created with information. So if I know my left and right borders, then we work within the borders and we all save time, which then make money.
Yeah, so you reduce the friction between the communications.
Yeah.
All right, Albin, I want to ask you as well, because I know you're very passionate about reducing friction, and you at Compass Group you deal with very large scale corporate dining projects. Like the operating like cafeterias of Google and all of that. Where do you see AI? Where's the biggest benefits that you've seen AI contribute to, and what technologies are you excited by?
So, part of business excellence, the role, my day-to-day is just removing friction. It's how I explain it in the most simple way. So the way we look at AI, it's very interesting when I hear Chef Yvette mentioning it. You have to map out what people are doing, and basically what you need to think about it is how can this tool become the co-pilot, can be support your own managers to make the right decision. So one example and something we're doing is exactly what Yvette was talking about on what's happening on 1 hour, but we are mapping it at a massive scale across APAC, across all the front office staff, with simple questions. Who is doing what, when, and how. And basically now with the power of AI, we can really consolidate all this and map out and understand where are the downtime from the team, So literally find where we are overproducing, defects, when we have too many motions from the storage back to back of house and things like that. And this time is then given back to the operator, so he can spend more time on the front of house with the guests, with the users to enhance the user experience.
Okay, sounds good. And what happens to, I know you're very passionate about HR policies as well. Okay, all right, back to our conversation.
Yes.
So what impact has this had on people in HR policies?
Well, it actually created opportunities, because if you think about one of the examples we are using it, where we are opening and finding and understanding where there is possible gaps for the team to grow, instead of having them to do something else, this is where we question them and say, okay, what would you like to learn? Because you have an hour to do during your day that you didn't have before because of our efficiencies. And then that person might want to become a barista, that person might want to grow to a different section, and this is where we can clearly map out their learning and development plan for each of the teams. So it's really an opportunity right now, and that's how the team sees it.
And you're seeing this in the Compass Group itself, in the company, or as well as the venues that you operate for other companies?
Compass Group is a big business. So right now we are consolidating information, because I think on all the great things you can do with AI, you really, really need to nail what problem you want to solve and what is, the outcome that you want to achieve. Because otherwise you go into a rabbit hole of, I think Tulsi was mentioning it, about over delivering information, data, and you can't cope with AI. It never stops.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Stuart, I want to bring you back in the conversation. So you work with clients and projects of different sizes. For companies that don't have maybe the budgets of a Michelin star restaurant or a large office cafeteria, how have you seen the AI adoption, particularly for smaller use cases?
Again, it comes back to that overwhelm, I think. And I think there's a lot of operators out there who have kind of started to ignore it or haven't been able to keep pace with it. So I think probably the biggest pain point is finding out where to start in your AI journey and building a plan to implement it.
What's your recommended advice for where to start? Where for someone feeling the overwhelm? Where's the good starting
Look,
point?
again, similar to my previous answer, it's about breaking it into chunks, into bite-sized chunks, and focusing your activity, your journey on those particular aspects. So starting with the things that are going to bring your customers through the door, the things that are going to drive revenue, the things that are going to save costs, and all the while making sure that you're building an operational infrastructure and behind it that supports the AI, because without it, it won't work. There's a huge problem, I think, with AI in that it does rely on data, and in hospitality there isn't a lot of good, clean data. So understanding that and what its limitations currently are is probably really important as well.
Yeah, and putting in place the data collection in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, I want to explore a little bit more about data and Tony. You manage multiple brands and venues across multiple territories. How do you keep each brand distinctive? And in using, AI aggregates averages, right? Like it can only create stuff based on data that has come before, right? And it will spit out something that's pretty average. So how do you create a very distinctive brand, like a new concept, for example, that no one has seen before? Is AI actually helpful?
So we're very particular in making sure that we start with the end in mind, meaning what is the executable, what is the end result, what is the owner looking for in terms of positioning for their hotel or their bar or their restaurant, aligning that. And as we're sort of layering all of these, I would say, quantifying or prompts, right? Because we've got to build that up. We're then sort of saying, well, what is front of the curtain and what's behind the curtain? And we have to be very careful with that, because the back of house has to be the best solution for providing what we want front of house. So if it's a grab and go, it's more simplistic than it is a burnt ends kitchen or outputs or Michelin model. So for us, it helps us triangulate what I would call benchmark discovery. It saves us potentially getting on as many flights to go and actually discover yourself. But we have to be cautious that it doesn't get in the way of the final emotional experience, right? Because AI is already doing a lot for us, but it's not the final delivery to the consumer or the customer. That's done by you and you guys, right? So it will never take over that for us, and we're very cautious to make sure that people understand that.
Yeah. How do you make a call on what to keep front of the curtain and back of the curtain, as you say, and also as technology normalizes in our lives, right? Like now QR codes are not innovative anymore. It's almost the default mode. And as people accept that, okay, we're going to have a fair amount of technology in restaurants. How do you draw that distinction? How do you keep the human touch? Does that human touch need to stay that human when maybe people are expecting more efficiency in their dining experience these days?
Yeah, I think with all the noise out there, and everyone is saying they're time poor. There's never enough hours in the day, or when I'm running the restaurant, running the bar, I'm so busy. I've had 3 people call in sick, or they haven't turned up, or whatever. So ideally, we want to simplify the data that is available, potentially on different platforms. So when we've got repeat customers coming back, we're able to tailor-make the experience based on that data. So what style of coffee is it? What is their favorite desserts? Or go into wine pairing. So this is stuff that we would traditionally do in a briefing, in terms of we're going to provide Debbie's favorite cocktail on check-in, and we're going to place it in her room, and she likes it at 7 p.m. So we're trying to take some of the lift off the crunching of the numbers or the writing of the spreadsheets, so that we can be more present in the moment in the outlets, bringing the outlets to life, right? And not be, so automated or so robotic about it. That's the risk that we have, because then we're reading what AI's told us, and then we're not personalizing it or using the God-given skills that we've been given in industry to deliver on brand. But for me, all concepts start with, whether it's a Sofitel, an M Gallery, it's about that as a starting point, and then the bar brand, and we work with that, and then layer in all the other, market intelligence in terms of favorite dishes, popular selling, price points, so on, and then we can start building the knowledge to then deliver the concept.
Okay, sounds good. I also want to ask you about another aspect. So you interface a lot with property owners, the investors, and also from your time in private equity. How have you seen expectations from owners change now that they have access to more information? Are they asking for more data, or really are they just looking at returns still? Are they getting into the weeds of exactly how the technology is being used and how you're spending the investment that they put into a venue?
Can you put your hand up if you're an owner, just so I could check first? There we go. Okay, right. I'll be careful. Look, it's definitely helping them in terms of the aggregation of data. They're faster to respond in terms of building ROI models. If I come up with a Belgium concept and give it a name, they can quickly research and say, oh, is that similar to the one in Bangkok? And I'll be like, yes. So it's given them further reach. But I'm pretty okay with that, because that makes us more battle weary, right? We've got to be on our game. So knowing that they've got access to what I've got access, I just have to countermeasure that. What I do think it's doing is potentially giving a false pretense to a number of people that don't have the same length of service in roles, who are potentially pretending to know more than what they actually know, which is a bit dangerous. So it's the old adage of, too much, too little, too soon. Right. So I'm seeing a little bit of that, particularly when it comes to projects where they'll throw a floor plan or a concept brief into AI, and it'll give them what are 3 positives, what are the 3 negatives, and they don't actually make operational sense, but they don't know that because they don't have the operational background. So that becomes a little bit of, well, how do you then not push back, but help them understand better? But the answer is yes. It's probably harder for the general managers on site at hotel level than it is for us in corporate office, because they have way more exposure. But what it does mean is we have to be far more prepared when we're going for a new hotel pitch, particularly. We're seeing that. That landscape's changed. And I guess my background of presenting investments is helping our team at the moment being able to defragment some of that risk before we get to it.
Yeah, I think that's a super interesting point. It's like how vibe coding, right, now makes everyone a programmer. You don't need to study any of that. So I'm going to ask you, how do you apply that to when you select designers for your projects? How do you read who has the experience and who AI generated their floor plan? How do you cut through the noise and sift out for true experience?
Yeah, I think that one's easy. It's proof of concept, right? So you can have the best pitch deck in the world, best credentials, and some of those professionals out there have created great ideas, but then they haven't monetized or manifested into long-term concepts that are still making money and working today, right?
Okay, so track record is still really important.
Absolutely. So we probably use it more for summarizing profiles for people more than design. I think that's a little bit tricky to do. It's very much word of mouth in terms of speaking to other owners and how was that design firm to work with, speaking to the operational teams, because it is very much chemistry, reliability and passion. You don't really feel the passion coming through on the AI very often, right? Unless you put that in yourself. Yeah. So very much for us, it's proof of concept, consistency, and hotel restaurants or bars that have been operating successfully, test of time, where the design has only needed a little refresh or layering after 5 years or 7 years. That's proof of concept that design firm is who they say they are.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. That's very insightful and good to know. Good to know humans won't be replaced yet. Tulsi, you want to?
Can I just add to that? So I've been in this industry designing for over 20 years now, and when I started off my career, design was always been about problem solving and finding solutions. Over the last 10 years, I've discovered, I'm sure all of you have as well, it became more of an aesthetic layer where everything was decided upon how good a render looks. And now with AI, everything is becoming democratized now from a design perspective, where the briefs coming to us, instead of a written document, our renders developed by clients sending to us, we want to design a hotel or a restaurant, and here's what we want it to look like. So can you help us, right? So that, in fact, has happened. The challenge is, which Tony, what you're sharing, and something which I also feel in the industry is that you need to know your craft. You need to understand basically what you're solving and how you're making it more beneficial for the owners and the users of that particular space. So that is basically where with AI, I feel the shift is changing and will change. It'll weed out the people who knew too little but were pretending to know a lot, as opposed to people now who really need to understand their craft and need to sweat to make the spaces work.
I'll give you an example of when you put in a floor plan, if you haven't given it the right prompts, information, background. For example, what side of the hotel does the sunrise, sunset, right? Because then I'm going to arrange my key seating or best views, high potential for higher revenue spend. So it doesn't think like that yet, right? Because the database is still being built. So there's still a lot of innuendos operationally from a customer satisfaction and, again, cultivating that brand experience that it doesn't deliver.
So you might still have to take the flight there to check out the venue. Can't
Absolutely.
save on all the flights yet. Speaking of people who put all the passion and the sweat into their restaurants, Yvette, just now I asked you about back of house, so now I want to ask you about front of house. And I think what's interesting about your experience is that you oversee the private dining room, which is very intimate and very high touch, high trust, as well as the bar, which can be a bit more high volume. So what's your thinking in integrating AI and technology in the front of house of both spaces? Do you see it differently? What are your needs in both spaces?
So, as said, like with AI, you want to start with the end in mind. So a lot of times you see AI usage in staff spiel and speech and verbiage. So if you change concept in a single venue with similar dishes, then the way that it's delivered and all can be helped by AI. But I think a lot of time it has to be backed by storytelling. So AI can help with the surface presentation, but we have switched our staff training to include knowing the backstory, the story of the dish, or the story of the design. Like especially in the PDR where a lot is internalized before being delivered. Everyone knows like a lot of information is out there about the main dining or about Bonanza from the old times till now. But not a lot is said about how can I create a more intense version of Bonanza or a more curated, a more intimate form of Bonanza, or how do I switch this to a casual cocktail focus when all we know is food and barbecue with the brand. So a lot has to be done with marketing, of course, but actually day to day, it's how the human touch of service and how do we switch from the same product but a different venue. And it is all about training and about staff internalizing what they're serving. Then in turn, when they switch a venue, like when I put on a different uniform or when I put on and I change my service style, when I go to a sister restaurant like Miss Smith, I know that now speed is the key, and this is all not done with AI training or AI reading. It's by internalizing the product and then delivering. So yeah.
Interesting, thank you for that sharing. I also want us to then now cast our gaze into the future, right? And typically a lot of the projects, especially large scale ones that you guys do are 5 to 8 years in the making. How do you design for technologies that don't even exist yet? Like AI, with generative AI has really just come up in the last 2 to 3 years. Now we're talking about agentic AI, where maybe we don't even need the human in the loop anymore, right? Agents will be hiring from agents. Maybe agents will be commissioning agents to do the design by an agent. So how do you think in terms of designing for this unknown need? Because we talked just now about designing for a specific goal, specific use case, specific need, but this is changing so quickly. What's your thoughts on that, Albin? You handle quite a large scale, a large range of large scale projects.
Yeah, it's a good question to try to understand. We have had the first wave of the tsunami, which is AI, and I think there is the piece missing, which Tony and Yvette pointed out, is around the people. We are in the people industry, so I believe we need to bridge the link between people and this basically support technology. So my view is I think we're gonna have much more neuroscience coming into the picture, so which means that when you walk into a place, actually it does exist because we're speaking with people like who have developed the technology, the camera can feel the emotion. You have this cognitive recognition of the person walking into the space, and the environment surrounding you is going to evolve depending on the mood, depending on how you react, and you can go to the extent on what menu you can be agile to support this hyper-personalization of experience for the guests. But you pointed out that also look at it from from the team, from the operation perspective. It's also something quite amazing because we can look at this data from a counter and look at the person serving someone else and have the same methodology, the same research applied on understanding if this person is tired, is this person stressed, is this person burned out, and actually help the develop people in a much preventive way rather than being reactive on when something happens. So that's my personal view, but I think, what's your view?
That's a good question. I mean, 5 years is a long time in AI, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to keeping the customer experience central to everything. There's so many opportunities to lure us away from that by giving us tools to make the business more efficient and to serve the operator better. But that can compromise the customer experience. So
yeah, okay. So customer experience is key. I like the reminder. Tulsi, what do you think about the sustainability aspect, right? If you're designing for something and then the technologies change, then you have to redesign, rebuild. How can we still have this low carbon adaptive reuse mindset in designing
I
for the
think
future?
the basics have to be covered first. The interesting thing is that we are designing spaces for people to slow down, but somehow we've been asked to speed up. And that is the irony in this, where the basics like culture, context, behavior, I feel that's going to stay on because you will have to design for that. I know, Albin, you spoke about neuroscience, the camera, understanding and looking at people's facial expressions. To me, it'll kill the joy of serendipitous moments, especially in F&B or a guest experience or a perspective. But of course, that may happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. So that is what we need to design basically for. What we need to leave for flexibility, it should be your technology, lighting, that sort of stuff which will evolve mental health. But the basic aspect where a person sitting on a chair, eating at a table will continue. How a person walks in, how the experience spaces will continue to happen. And that's something you just have to design the basics for.
Yeah.
And AI, unfortunately, maybe perhaps an anecdote about it. So there's I'm going to quote somebody who is a vice chairman of Ogilvy, UK. He shared a story about there's a lift in a commercial building, and the lift was, people were complaining the lift wasn't fast enough. So they got brands in to come in, find solutions. And an AI context would have been, okay, let's try and spend money to make this lift faster. That's point A to B. But somebody came along and says, oh, what you do is just install mirrors in the lift lobby. So the question wasn't that lift was slow. The question was people didn't know what to do in the lift lobbies. Yeah. So now with mirrors, we are a bit voyeuristic. So that is the bit basically where the decision making needs to be given back to or taken control of by the people, by humans, then letting AI design and build for us.
Yeah, that's an interesting anecdote. Thanks for that. We've opened the questions to the floor, and the questions have come in fast and furious, and I think there's a difficult one for you, Tulsi, while we are still on the topic of sustainability. AI is a highly polluting system, so how do you reconcile that with your low carbon motto and keep it from being performative and make it actually, something that is deeply transformative and something that you deeply think about? Tough one, huh?
Wait for Elon Musk to put data centers up in the moon. So I'm just waiting for that to happen. So then, of course, that question will go away. But, I mean, it's a trade-off, unfortunately, right? I mean, we are in this world. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. But it does give us an opportunity and a chance to do good with that rather than pollute more. So that's how I answer that question.
Okay, sounds good.
It's probably relative too, right? I mean, if it's saving a flight, then a quick AO pump's a lot more energy efficient.
That's true. We should look at the net,
comparison.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a good point. There's one that has been voted the most popular. Is there an AI tool that can help QSRs create store design and accurately determine manpower requirements so stores are staffed correctly from day one without over or under allocation? Anyone in the QSR space? Otherwise, maybe this is one for you, Albin, because you think about people allocation a lot.
If someone has one, please, we'll take it. No, we have some simulation. That's basically what we are building. And I think there is some previous, I saw some questions about getting the data. And I think F&B is at the early stage. So we need to gather the right data, the right input, understanding the operation better on how those metrics could be applied and how you can build your forecasting even more accurately. But so far, Compass Group is pretty accurate, but we can refine that.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got a great partner called FutureLog, which handles the procurement piece. It also links to menu engineering. So the two have a sort of symbiosis together in terms of movement of stock, movement at the front of house, and how that correlates, and best price for what's potentially going to sell, and so on and so forth. So I wouldn't say we've mastered it, but the tools are there, the technology's there, but now we've got to be able to use it, if that makes sense, right? We need to get our hands more around it.
And that's the most complex part in our industry, is like there is the knowledge, but to implement it, change management, it's extremely, tricky.
Yeah, I think there's a question that how does leadership attitude affect the adoption of AI technologies, which is to your point.
Well, you just need to talk about it, explain what would be the benefits to your team, explain what people can take out of it. That's why I'm personally looking at it and bringing it into the perspective that that's gonna help you. That's gonna help to change your life, you know. Really make your life easier, and also demonstrate to your managers that you can't do everything also, so we need more time or adjust new equipment. To me, it's the foundation for elevating the industry to the next level.
We've made it a KPI for my team globally.
Okay.
So this year, one of your KPIs is to advance your AI knowledge. And every 3 weeks on our calls, we are sharing with each other in the team what we're learning, what we got wrong, why it went wrong, how do we use it, because it's a faster way of ramping up our own internal knowledge.
Yeah. I think there's an interesting question that came in that touched on a point that we haven't explored yet, which is on data governance. What governance frameworks should organizations put in place to ensure that this increased data output doesn't become a security risk? Have any of you got a strong thoughts on that?
I'll let legal handle that one, but...
But at the operational stage, you know, how do you make sure you don't give away the keys to the house, right? In wanting more data faster and to increase this efficiency?
Yeah, it's the one we need to crack. And specifically working for a large corporation in IT, it's even more difficult to get the data because you get some personal information from the users in the building. So it's complex. Yeah. So obviously, yeah, asking legal, making sure you have the right guide rail in place is very important. And I will also remind all the manufacturers here who provide connectivity to make sure they also understand very well what they are doing when they provide the customer to be able to connect to those devices, because that can create massive gap and massive risk for your client and also for your own business.
Yeah, okay, well said. I'm just being mindful of time, so maybe just final words from everyone on the panel, like 30 seconds each. What do you think our industry will look like 5 years from now? Big question. Or what is the one technology that you really hope to see becoming more commonplace in 5 years or in 2 years?
I will start. I think just good experience, great experience, good food in a safe environment, and that will be good.
But is there a technology that excites you right now? What do you think is going to be game-changing?
I think there will be a lot of things changing, and they are all enablers, but we are all in the F&B industry to make sure everybody has the good experience and eat well, eat food, have some good drinks. So I think we should not go away from that, and all the rest is just enablers to enhance this.
Okay. Yeah, so stay true to why we're here.
Correct.
All right, Stuart,
I'm really
forecasts?
interested to see where vibe coding goes and how operators might use that themselves to potentially cancel subscriptions to SaaS systems or streamline SaaS systems. Already I've got clients who have got rid of systems because they've been able to vibe code it themselves. Saves a few subscriptions, but also make sure they can tailor that system directly to what they need.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I'll be watching that as well. Tony, what's your prediction?
I think success for us would be having global scalability of concepts that are super consistent from Paris, Bangkok, Sydney, New York, but still have a very local reference and personality, and having the artists or our staff members with less weight on their shoulders carrying around the restaurants and the bars, because systems and AI has given them or provided them with the data of the customers, of the recipes, of the brand storytelling. So that makes it easier for them from a training tool. But the one thing I don't want to see is the aggregation of information so that I have or see the same cocktail menu or starters or desserts, because that's what's going on in market, instead of it being personalized to the brand, because I've started to see that creep in a little bit.
It's a bit like Instagram, right? Everyone starts to plate their dishes the same way because they just see it all the time. Yeah. Tulsi, how about you? What's your prediction?
I think things would speed up before it slows down. I think the next sort of 4 to 5 years, I think will be excessive, where we'll see a lot of sort of things being dumped at us. Something to take on what Tony's sort of mentioning about, so I think, just speed up before things slow down. I think what I would like to see is that it helps us to iterate and system test models and projects before they are built, so we know they will not fail and they will last longer. And I feel that's what AI would help us to do, not to make bad decisions, but make better decisions for everything what we do in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the less failures, the less waste and that's generated, which is more sustainable.
And data centers are good for that.
Yeah. All right, Yvette, how about you?
So we have seen quality of chefs in terms of intellectually, with the increase in like literacy and education, like quality has increased. And now there's an added layer of literacy in AI for chefs. So then we are actually more skilled than ever in terms intellectually as crafters or chefs. So it's be interesting to see how then the industry shape itself into with a more intellectually educated workforce. We would have to see how the market and the consumers then affect tell us what they want, and then what then we create with that information rather than just limited by skill and information.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's certainly a very hopeful future to look forward to. So with that, we will wrap up the panel. On behalf of FCSI and FHA, thank you for joining us. You have been an amazing audience, and thank you to our panelists for all your insights. We will have cocktails at 4 p.m. and then we have more panels coming up right after this. So please stick around if you would like to talk to the panelists, and I encourage you to. You can find them on the side of stage. So thank you again, once again, everybody. Thank you so much.